So in this whole other world, you've got two major powers running the show, these gnarly demons, and some angelic types called divine spirits. For like forever, these two sides were at war. It was a total clash of titans. But plot twist, the demons actually won. 10 years ago, they decided our world was next, and just stormed right in. They were so OP. Humanity didn't stand a chance against the horde pouring out of these gates. That's when the divine spirits showed up to a few chosen people, gifting them these things called sacred stones. The people chosen to rock this power became known as hunters, and they could finally fight back against the demons. Fast forward to now, we're in a forest about 10 kilometers outside Tokyo, where a crew of hunters is staring down a gate to an E-rank dungeon. The squad about to head in looks totally geared up for whatever's inside, but lagging behind the main group is the pack mule, a guy with a massive backpack. He's got black hair and black eyes, and his name's Mako. He's telling everyone he's got no problem lugging their stuff. The others just roll their eyes and head through the gate, telling Mako to stay out of the fight since he's just a wannabe hunter. Mako totally hates being called a wannabe, but he's kinda used to it by now. He breaks it down for us, a sacred stone just like appears on your hand one day. Then a divine spirit is supposed to show up and make a pact with whoever has the stone. 2 years ago, Mako was just at home when this insane bright light surrounded him. He was so hyped to see a sacred stone pop up on his hand. It meant he was finally going to be a hunter. He clenched his fist, feeling totally determined, telling himself the tragedy from before would never ever happen again. He flashed back to when the demons first invaded. He'd rushed home only to find his parents were already gone. Because of that, the sacred stone was his one and only hope. So one day, Mako's at a park just practicing his sword swings. He felt pretty good after hitting 1,000 reps. Next up on the agenda, a 20-kilometer run. People walking by totally recognized him. They knew him as the wannabe hunter, and man that always stung. As he ran, he could hear them gossiping about how it's been 2 years and still no divine spirit for him, and how he was just wasting the stone's potential. So let's jump ahead to a snowy day. Mako gets slammed against a wall by some jerk on his hunter team. The guy's complaining that Mako is nothing but dead weight. Mako insists that he can fight, saying he's been training like crazy with his weapon. But the guy just scoffs, telling him that without a divine spirit, he's completely useless to them. The words cut deep, but Mako couldn't say a thing back. As they walked away, the guy told him to just give up on being a hunter like them. Mako was left all alone in the alley, feeling totally hopeless. He just couldn't figure out why his divine spirit never came. He became a total outcast, with both hunters and regular people. Back in the present, Mako's current crew is tearing through demons in the dungeon. The leader, Hina, is blasting them with flames of power from his divine spirit. Flame. Mito's firing off ice arrows to take down demons, a skill she got from her spirit Zero. Kamiya is wielding a lightning sword, a gift from his spirit Fall. With their teamwork, they're just wiping the floor with the demons. Hina suddenly sees a demon creeping up behind Mako. He shouts a warning, but the creature is already charging. Mako slams his hand on the ground. He uses it to pivot and spin out of the way of the attack, totally dodging it. He pulls out his sword, thinking to himself that he can take this thing down. He rushes toward the demon and swings, nailing the creature right in the forehead. Except it took 0 damage. It just gets more ticked off as it tries to pull the sword out of its head. That's when he realizes only an attack from a divine spirit can actually hurt a demon. The demon swings at him again, but before it hits, Hina unleashes a blast of fire and torches it. With the demon handled, Hina runs over to ask Mako if he's okay. Mako's just trying to catch his breath. He manages to apologize and thank Hina. The leader comes over and tells Mako his dodge moves were actually pretty sick. The kid is so not used to getting compliments. He tells the leader he's been training like mad, so he'll be ready the second his divine spirit wants to make a pact. Hina says he really hopes that day comes soon. Mako actually feels a little bit of comfort. He tells the leader he appreciates that. Mako gets back on his feet, ready to move on. He's completely oblivious to the sneaky, nasty smiles his teammates are sharing. After a bit, the team makes it to the deepest part of the dungeon right in front of the boss gate. Hina touches the gate, checking it out. He starts reminding Mako about how demons work, that there are a ton of different kinds. He says most of them have their own unique patterns. Mako asks if the plan is to use the boss's pattern to beat it. Hina raises his hand and says he's exactly right. Then out of nowhere, Kamiya grabs Mako from behind, while Mito points an ice arrow right at his face. Mako just stares, completely shocked that his own teammates are turning on him. As Hina opens the gate, he casually mentions how some demons fall asleep right after they eat. Then they shove Mako straight through the gate. They're all laughing their heads off, calling him dinner. Mako begs them not to do it. As the gate closes, Hina sneers that this is what he gets for failing to make a pact with a divine spirit. Mako can't do anything but listen. The gate slams shut and he starts pounding on it, screaming for them to let him out. He curses himself for being so stupid and not seeing the betrayal coming. Then he feels a huge presence right behind him. He turns around slowly. He's face to face with a giant beast known as Behemoth, and he feels like a tiny ant. He's totally frozen, just staring up at the massive creature. Behemoth swings its massive claws at him and he just barely dodges. Meanwhile, his so-called party is outside playing cards, totally clueless. The boss monster is literally tearing its own lair apart, trying to get to Mako. Behemoth is stalking him like a total predator. He sees Mako trying to book it. Mako's desperately clinging to the hope that the beast isn't fully awake yet, thinking this is his one shot to get out of here. Mako spots a sliver of light in the distance and his feet are already moving. But then the behemoth lets out this insane, earth-shattering roar. The ceiling starts crumbling, and rocks crash down, completely blocking Mako's exit. He just stares at the pile of rubble, totally crushed. Right behind him, the monster is charging, about to turn him into a pancake. But even then, Mako tells himself he's gonna make it through this. But Behemoth's teeth are getting way too close. He's thinking about everything he still has to do. He remembers his parents, how they died. He can't believe he never got revenge for them. He screams that there's no way he's dying here, and just like that, the sacred stone in his hand starts glowing like crazy. This dark energy just explodes out and wraps around him. He has no idea what's happening, but it keeps swirling around him. It creates this black force field all around him, stopping Behemoth's charge dead in its tracks. The monster looks totally stunned. Inside the shield, Mako is floating in this pitch-black void. He looks down at his sacred stone and sees that it's pulsing with this seriously evil aura. All of a sudden, black feathers start drifting down onto his hand. His eyes go wide. And then he sees her, a woman with black angel wings, floating down right in front of him. Mako is just frozen, like what is even happening? The woman holds out her hand to him. She asks him to form a pact. Outside, the force field is still holding strong and Behemoth is just waiting for it to drop. Meanwhile, back in that void, the winged woman is still offering Mako a deal. He's completely lost. She tells him to hurry it up because the little bubble she made won't last forever. She asks him again, like, does he want to make a pact or not? And then it clicks for Mako. He's looking at his own divine spirit, knowing that he wants this pact more than anything. He reaches out his hand and says he's in. The second their hands touch, she declares their pact is sealed. Then the girl starts getting sucked into the sacred stone. He just watches as all this dark energy flows into it. Mako feels this insane power surging through him. The force field vanishes. He's facing Behemoth's sword in hand. He smirks and says it's time for their teamwork to begin. The monster just roars back. Mako's like, whoa, the pressure from that thing feels way stronger than before. The creature lunges at him. He gets ready to jump. He declares he's not the same guy he was a second ago. And he actually manages to dodge the creature's massive paws. He lands a good distance away from the monster. Mako can't believe what he just did. He tightens his grip on his sword, gets into a battle stance, and announces that now it's his turn to attack. Then it hits him. He remembers seeing Kamya use his spirit's lightning ability on a demon. He realizes he needs to tap into his own divine spirit's power to take down this boss. He starts to freak out as the Behemoth comes at him again. He still has no clue how to use his power, but he starts moving. He's dodging Behemoth's attacks while yelling for his spirit's name, and asking her what her power even is. He hears a woman's voice right inside his head. He's totally confused. The girl's like, oh yeah, she forgot to mention his power. He literally tells her to get it together. She just says he never asked, which only makes the guy running for his life more frustrated. Behemoth gets closer to Mako. The demon smashes its fist into the ground, wrecking everything. Mako manages to leap away just before it hits him. He asks his spirit if that shadow-like aura from before was her power. She's like, yep, that's the one. Mako starts to concentrate, gathering the dark energy. She praises him, saying he catches on fast. She calls her power Rebellion Shadow. She explains that it's basically the ability to control shadows. Mako just keeps staring at his hands. He tells himself to just focus. Then he closes his eyes. The shadow in his palm slowly starts to take shape. Right before his eyes, it morphs into a sword made of pure shadow. The spirit calls it a shadow weapon. She explains that a shadow weapon is the power to turn any shadow into a weapon. The guy gets this huge smirk on his face. He totally thinks his new weapon is more than enough. Even standing in front of Behemoth, Mako yells that he can actually fight now. He starts taunting the beast. He tells it he won't leave a single opening for an attack. Behemoth whips its massive tail around, using it like a whip that almost smacks him. Mako gets into a slashing stance. He swings his blade. He actually manages to slice off a chunk of the monster's tail. The severed piece is so huge that the whole cave shakes when it hits the ground. Mako holds his stance. The demon is totally enraged. Its eyes are glowing bright red with pure anger. Mako readies another sword stance and declares that he's the hunter now. He shoots toward the monster with lightning speed. The shadow blade gets super close to Behemoth's face, but the monster dodges at the very last second. Mako realizes it's already figuring out his moves. Still, he pushes forward. He leaps high into the air, planning on slicing the demon on his way down. Behemoth moves its paws. It dodges his attack by just stepping back. Mako is about to swing his sword again. As he slashes, his blade suddenly stretches out. It gets so long that he manages to cut off both of Behemoth's front legs. The beast lets out a howl of pure pain. It collapses to the ground. Mako realizes that the shadow can change its shape however he wants. He looks down at the helpless beast as it struggles to get back up. He jumps. High above the Behemoth, Mako raises his sword, about to bring it down on the beast. He remembers everyone telling him he was just wasting his sacred stone. Like whenever Mako was training with his sword, all he heard were people calling him useless. Every time he went for a run, it was just whispers about how he was training for nothing. He's all like, it was never pointless. So now Mako is literally diving right at BEHEMOTH. As he shapes his sword into some kind of giant weapon, he's thinking, I was just sharpening my fangs and this is the moment to let him rip. The blade sinks right into the beast. The slice is so insane it actually cuts Behemoth in two. Mako's blade slowly vanishes. The moment just leaves him speechless. The whole shadow aura completely fades away. His hands are totally trembling. He's got this huge grin plastered on his face as he clenches his fists. He's so hyped that he finally defeated a demon. After all the excitement, he just collapses to the ground for a breather. He looks down at the stone on his hand. He's like, "Hey, can we talk?" The woman's voice tells him to give her a sec. A shadow aura just pours out of the stone. It morphs into the woman with the black wings. Mako thanks her for totally saving his butt. She just says he was the one who did all the hard work. He bows and tells her he's so grateful she made a pact with him. The girl just kind of looks at him. Mako tells her that her shadow power is seriously amazing. He's pretty sure she's some kind of high-ranking divine spirit. But the girl tells him he's wrong, that she's no divine spirit. Then she drops the bomb. "I'm a demon!" Mako is just shocked silent. I mean, demons have wrecked tons of divine spirits and pushed humanity to the edge of extinction. That's why humans and divine spirits teamed up, and together they became hunters to fight demons. Back in the present, Mako is confronting her about it like, "You're a demon." She looks super uncomfortable admitting who she really is. The guy wants to know what's up, but their chat gets cut short when the gate opens. The crew that ditched Mako walks in and they're floored to see him still alive. Mako instantly sees red, just seeing them. The three hunters are totally confused about what went down. Hina spots the winged woman behind Mako and realizes the dude actually formed a pact. The three of them have no clue what to do now. Hina tells Maido and Kamiya that they'll be in deep trouble if Mako snitches that they locked him in the boss's room. So all at once they activate their divine powers. Mako knows they have to off him before he can talk, so he's in a bad spot. He turns to the mystery woman and asks for her name. She's baffled, but he really wants to know. She hesitates, then starts to say her name. She tells him her name is Reno. Mako makes his shadow sword reappear and asks Reno to lend him her power again. The woman is shocked he still wants anything to do with her. Meanwhile, the three hunters aiming their crazy divine powers at him are telling themselves they can totally take Mako, since he's basically a newbie who just awakened his power. But suddenly, Flamha's spirit screams at the humans to stop. Hina's like, "What's wrong?" The fire spirit can tell just by looking at the mystery woman that she's way more powerful than they can even imagine. And even the spirits of the other two show up to warn their partners how crazy strong their enemy is. Flam tells Hina they don't know who this mystery woman is, but he can feel the power of a top-class divine spirit coming from her. The trio just gasps when they hear that. Mako looks over at Reno, wondering if it's true. He explains to us that the ranks of divine spirits are split into different categories, and that almost no one has ever reached the strongest top-class level. He asks Reno, "For real, who are you?" The woman just reminds him they don't have time for 20 questions with enemies right in front of them. Hina steps forward. His firepower is still blazing as he denies that a weakling like Mako could ever be stronger than him. Maido and Kamiya don't look so confident and are holding back. Hina calls his friends cowards, then lunges straight for Mako. He gets inches away from decking Mako with a flaming fist, yelling that he's gonna show everyone what real power looks like. But despite all the trash talk, Mako doesn't even blink. He dodges the punch like it was nothing. Hina isn't giving up, though. He throws more punches, but Mako just dodges every single one. Hina's hand is still super close to Mako's face when he ignites a spark of flame. He instantly tries to blow it up to burn him. But then there's a sudden slash of a blade. Turns out Mako just canceled the flame with his sword. Hina and his buddies can't believe their eyes. Mako mocks Hina, sarcastically asking if he's even trying. His taunt just makes the arrogant hunter even angrier. Hina tells him not to get cocky, saying he's just some loser who got lucky enough to make a pact with a strong divine spirit. Mako is seriously insulted. He tells Hina he made a pact way faster than he did. He shouts that while he never gave up, he would never ever call his journey to form a pact luck. Hina gets even more pissed. The fire around him rages as he declares he's gonna finish Mako for good. He tells his friends to get in the fight, otherwise Mako will rat them out. Maido and Kamiya power up too, feeling like they're totally trapped. Hina focuses a giant fireball in the palm of his hand. It turns out all three of them are charging up their finishing moves at the same time. Their energy attacks all blast toward Mako together. Their attacks are just inches from his body. The attacks explode right where Mako is engulfing him in total destruction. The three of them are just smiling and laughing at the chaos. As the smoke starts to clear, you can see a silhouette of Mako. He's revealed to be alive and completely untouched. Hina and the others look totally gobsmacked. Mako tells them he sliced right through all their attacks, and then taunts them that the boss's attacks were faster than theirs. He takes a step. Mako starts striding toward his opponents, looking like a total boss. Hina's definitely spooked now, but he still tries to act tough, sparking another flame in his hand. He starts chucking a bunch of fireballs while yelling that Mako is just some weak and pathetic wannabe hunter. Mako braces himself for the incoming flames. He slices right through every single one as he closes in on Hina. Hina just stares at him. The two enemies lock eyes. Hina demands to know what he really is. Mako makes his shadow weapon just vanish. He's going with his fists instead. He lands a solid punch right in Hina's gut, and the impact sends the guy flying. I'm a hunter, Mako answers flatly. Hina's body slams down near the terrified Mido and Kamya. You can see him shivering even though he's totally knocked out. Mako tells the other two to grab their leader and get lost. With a death glare, he warns them not to breathe a word about him to anyone. Mido and Kamya are freaking out, scrambling to pick up Hina. They haul their leader away and book it out of there. Mako's sacred stone begins to glow. Reno emerges from the stone and compliments Mako for going easy on his enemies. He thanks the Dark Angel for having his back. Reno gives him a small smile, but Mako isn't done with their chat. He asks her how she's a demon instead of a divine spirit. Reno clenches her fist, obviously not wanting to answer. The woman slowly starts to talk. Reno explains that she was once upon a time a divine spirit from the angel race, but because of something that happened, she was turned into a demon. Mako tries to wrap his head around this new info. He knows angels are like top tier among divine spirits, but he's never heard of one actually becoming a demon. She adds that the only reason she could make a pact with him was because she used to be a divine spirit, but she has no idea why her sacred stone was ever given to him. Okay, things are making a little more sense to Mako now. Reno adds that she can't exactly hide being a demon, so if he wants to break their pact, it's totally okay. She clutches her shoulder, looking ashamed as she says it. The hunter notices that she's trembling a little. Mako gives her a reassuring smile, and then gets down on one knee. He tells her his name and that he's 18 years old. Reno is a little confused about why the young hunter is suddenly introducing himself. But Mako can tell the demon is a good person, so he's already decided he's not canceling their pact. Reno is seriously touched when he says that he'll be counting on her from now on. She's at a loss for words at first, but then she smiles too, and says she's cool with that arrangement. Mako is super happy to hear it. He gets back to his feet and the two of them head for the exit together. Elsewhere, two demons are spying on Reno and Mako using magic. One is a two-horned demon with a wicked grin who says, "The fallen angel ditched them just like he called it." The other demon, who's dressed way fancier, says he's busy with a book and couldn't care less about Reno. He says, whether she bails on them or not, means nothing to their plans. The other demon flashes an evil smile and says she could at least give them a good show. Back in the city, there are these long rows of apartment buildings. Mako's place is apartment 303, and he leads his new companion inside. His apartment is crazy bare with just one bed and a table plus some unopened boxes in the corner. He cheerfully tells Reno to make herself at home. The angel, though, is kind of stunned as she takes in his rundown place. She's thinking, is this for real where a human is supposed to live? She says it's not much different from the caves in the demon world. Mako admits she has a point about his home and asks if there's anything she wants. He makes it clear it can be anything at all. She thinks for a second and says wistfully that she wants to see something beautiful. Mako gets what she means and suggests they could try adding some flowers, saying they might look nice. The angel loves that idea. Mako is so psyched to hear it and says they'll buy flowers every time they beat a dungeon. But right now he's totally exhausted and needs to crash. Reno checks out his tiny bed and then lies right down on it, pointing out that it's a bit of a tight squeeze for two people. Mako is shocked that she's planning on sleeping with him, but she just says that back in heaven this was completely normal. He then asks if divine spirits can even sleep outside of their sacred stones. She figures probably not, so he suggests she just go back inside, which she does after wishing him good night. He stares at the gem for a moment before flicking off the light and lying down, his mind racing about what to do next. He could get into some major trouble if people find out he made a pact with a demon, which means he's got to take on dungeons all by himself. The only ones he can clear solo are F ranks, so that's where he's got to start. The next morning, he heads to the Japan Hunter Association headquarters. He asks Reno if she's okay since he's covered his gem with a black glove, and she tells him she's on board with his decision. He had to do it since a purple sacred stone would stick out like a sore thumb. He goes up to the reception desk and signs up to take on an F-rank dungeon. Suddenly, the whole place erupts with loud screams. Everyone's attention snaps to this super charismatic guy who just walked into the building. The crowd is whispering that it's rare for him to show up, and that he's way too good looking. It's the S-rank hunter Yugo. He's holding a bottle of liquor and just starts drinking it right in front of everyone. Everybody is trying to get his attention and snapping pictures. Yugo is completely used to this and thinks that not much has changed. Then he spots Mako in the background and his eyes go wide with surprise. The F-rank hunter recognizes the S-rank hero too, and wonders, wait, did we just make eye contact? Yugo looks pleased and walks straight toward Mako, making their huge height difference even more obvious. He hits Mako with the whole name and rank question, and Mako is like totally freaking out that the legendary hunter is actually talking to him. Yugo just tells him to chill, saying it's been a minute since he's actually talked to a dude. So Mako tells him his name and rank. The famous hunter's face is impossible to read after he hears it, and things get super awkward for a second. Mako's like, you need something. The S-rank hunter just flashes this huge grin and says nope. He apologizes for butting in, says they should grab tea sometime, and then just bounces, leaving Mako completely clueless about what that was all about. The receptionist, meanwhile, is totally starstruck and can barely hold it together because the celebrity hunter actually said something to her. Mako has to remind her about his request, and she finally gets on it. He's still trying to process that weird interaction when she hands him a tablet with the gate coordinates. grabs it and heads for the exit totally pumped. 'Cause this is his first ever solo dungeon run. Later he gets to the woods and spots this massive glowing gate. He confirms it's the one he was assigned and then dives right in. Inside, it's this huge cave with a seriously heavy vibe. Reno pops out of the stone and asks if it's for real that Frank demons are considered the weakest. He's like, yeah, as they go deeper in, then asks if she's sensing anything. Out of nowhere, a monster appears moving crazy fast. Mako spots it and instinctively whips his head around, summoning his shadow sword. He manages to throw it up between him and the monster, letting the sword take the full force of a hit so insane, it sends him flying backward. When the smoke clears, he's on one knee, but basically fine. He's wondering what the heck that monster was because it was lightning fast. Then they step into view, and he sees he's up against a bunch of chaos wolves. Mako is floored since those are D-rank monsters. While Reno points out that something feels off. He looks at the wolves and it hits him this is a D-rank dungeon. Mako and Reno are suddenly surrounded by 3 vicious chaos wolves. He takes a quick look over his shoulder and sees the gate is just gone. That means there's no running away. They both know that at his current level, beating these things is going to be a nightmare. Mako tries to take a breath and just focus on taking them down one by one. He rushes a wolf nearby, getting ready to slice it with his shadow sword. All of a sudden, he senses a paw coming at him from the side and has to ditch his attack and leap back to dodge the claws. He barely gets a chance to breathe when he realizes another wolf is about to hit him from behind. He just manages to dodge it and then finds himself stuck in the middle again, completely surrounded. He can tell their teamwork is on another level and tries to figure out a plan. Dust and rocks are flying everywhere as the battle gets wild. A chaos wolf opens its massive mouth and goes to take a bite out of the hunter. Mako blocks it with his shadow sword, but he's totally on the defensive. Another wolf barrels toward him at top speed, and all he can do is throw his arms up to guard. The hit slams Mako straight into the wall. On top of their crazy coordination, every single one of them is super strong, and they pounce the second they see an opening. He's wondering if there's anything he can do from inside the stone. Reno says she's thinking of something. The wolves creep closer, their blood-red eyes basically screaming for a fight. Then Mako gets an idea. But he's not sure if it's way too risky. He lets his shadow sword disappear, leaving himself totally defenseless. Reno is shocked, knowing this means the wolves won't even hesitate. And sure enough, all 3 monsters pounce on him at once as Reno watches totally freaked out. At the very last second, he summons his shadow weapon again and lets loose a huge slash, catching one of the wolves right in the mouth. He keeps the swing going and manages to land critical hits on the 2 other monsters, turning them all to dust. Mako was so relieved he actually pulled it off, while Reno was seriously impressed by his strategy of faking an opening to bait them all in. Mako collapses to catch his breath while his fallen angel wonders what's going on, since they're definitely not on the bottom floor. He has no idea, but he's pretty sure they're in a D-rank dungeon. Now that they're inside the gate, the only way out is to beat the boss. Then they hear a noise in the distance. A ton. More chaos wolves are heading right for them. Mako can't even believe it, but Reno tells him not to sweat it, 'cause something's different this time. She tells him to hold out one hand. Picture shadow chains and then aim. He does exactly what she says, and these long shadow chains shoot out from his hand and tie up the nearest chaos wolf. He realizes he's unlocked a new skill called Shadow Bind, which lets him totally restrain an enemy. He yanks his hand back hard, pulling the wolf toward him, and straight into his shadow sword, slicing it clean in half. Mako lets himself crack a smile. Another wolf leaps at him, but he just uses Shadow Bind again and snags the wolf right out of the air. He gets a sick idea and grabs the end of the chain with both hands. He starts swinging the chain like a total wrecking ball, using the captured wolf to slam into all the other monsters nearby. He's totally digging the new moves this ability gives him as he snags another wolf, then zips in and slashes it without breaking a sweat. Reno says he's a total natural with it, but warns him that the ability drains a lot of magic, so he better watch out. This new power lets him keep pushing, and the fight is over pretty fast. He went up against way more chaos wolves, but he was able to take them all out easily. Reno says that hunters just get stronger the more demons they wreck. Mako cracks a grin, realizing he's actually leveling up for real. He takes a deep breath and pushes deeper into the dungeon. Reno can see her partner is a super fast learner. I mean, he hadn't really fought many monsters before, but his physical game was already on point. Plus, with how sharp he is, she can tell his potential is insane, and she's stoked to see where he goes. Before long, they hit the deepest part of the dungeon, right at the boss room door. Mako just stands there for a sec, looking totally lost in thought. Reno pops out and asks him what's up. He's like, it's a hunter's job to clear these places, and only a hunter can open the boss door. He's feeling this crazy mix of scared and hyped. This is his chance to prove he's the real deal. Reno snaps him out of it, telling him they're just getting warmed up. Mako balls his fist, totally agreeing, and says again that he's going to be the hunter who saves the world. He puts his hand on the handle and the door creaks open, unleashing this gust of wind and some seriously dark vibes. The new hunter steps inside and the door slams shut behind him. He stares ahead, a mix of let's do this and oh crap on his face. A massive tail is swishing around as Mako realizes he's face to face with a D-rank boss, a hell scorpion. This thing is a total beast with 6 eyes on its chest, razor-sharp fangs, and a killer tail and pincers. Mako can tell its shell is crazy tough, looking more like rock than metal. Reno catches him shaking and asks if he's scared. He's all, Nah, I'm good, just got some pre-fight jitters. The scorpion makes the first move trying to crush him, from above with its pincer. It smashes the ground where he was just standing, Mako barely dodging it. He knows if he tries to fight this thing head-on, he's toast. The scorpion lunges again, and he just barely manages to block with his shadow sword. He then jumps into the air, landing a bunch of hits all over the scorpion's body. But like none of them even scratch its tough-as-nails shell. He lands behind the beast, and decides to just dodge its attacks while he looks for a weak spot. It's like no matter how tough the armor is, there's gotta be a weak point at the joints or something. Reno just watches quietly as he keeps slashing all over the enemy, trying to find that one weak link. Mako goes for an aerial attack, plunging his shadow sword straight down onto the scorpion's head. Even with all his strength, the sword just can't break through the hard shell. He sees he didn't even leave a mark, and now the scorpion is roaring, totally ticked off. Crystal shards start forming on its tail, and it shoots them right at him. He blocks a few but gets nicked by the others, realizing this thing has ranged attacks too. He's like, what now? And asks Reno if she's got any bright ideas. She basically says it's gonna be tough to hurt it with his current setup. He gets that he'll have to push past his limits as the scorpion whips around and charges at him. He casts Shadowbind, wrapping the chains around two of the scorpion's legs, making it trip and fall. The monster gets back up fast, and Mako realizes he would have been totally wrecked if that attack had landed. As the scorpion scrambles back up, Mako spots something huge. There's a crack on the monster's head. The young hunter gets it now. It's not about slashing. It's all about brute force. The scorpion looks even more furious now and tries to slice him with its pincer. Mako jumps back to dodge, noticing the monster's attacks are getting way more intense. Reno tells him he should try changing the shape of his sword, since slashing is clearly not working. She reminds him about the very first time he used his shadow weapon. The memory hits him, and he realizes she's totally right. The scorpion rushes in for another strike, and Mako launches himself high into the air to dodge. Reno looks a little worried because he won't be able to dodge like that while he's in the air. The scorpion shoots its crystal things at him, but he's ready for it and casts Shadowbind from above. He grabs the chain and yanks himself straight towards the boss. He summons a shadow weapon, but this time it's a giant hammer. He brings it down with everything he's got right on the scorpion's head. Mako jumps back and sees that the one hit was enough. To finish the beast, its head is completely caved in. He holds his shadow hammer, feeling proud, realizing he can make more than just swords. He thanks his fallen angel for the tip, but grumbles that she could have just told him straight up. Reno says it's important for him to figure stuff out on his own. He gets what she means as they stand over the dead monster. Reno adds that surprises are what help him level up. Mako just laughs, hoping the next fight isn't quite so stressful. The next day, back at the Japan Hunter Association HQ, the receptionist is super sorry for accidentally sending him to a way harder dungeon. Mako just smiles and says it's cool since he learned a ton. She's relieved to hear it and then shows him his reward, which is getting wired to his account. Mako stares at the payment, 1.5 million yen. He's shocked it's so much, but the receptionist explains it's because he cleared a D-rank dungeon. She bows and says she hopes to see him again. She finishes by calling him Mr. Hunter, which makes him swell with pride. He's for real living his dream now. So he steps outside and is super psyched to tell Reno they can go grab those flowers they talked about. He's picturing this awesome bouquet when boom, this girl with green hair walks right past him. He totally seems to recognize her and whips around. She's staring right back at him and even remembers his name. It hits him it's Kay, a friend from way back. She realizes her gut feeling was right, flashes him a smile, and is like, hey, how have you been? He's all, I finally got a contract with a divine spirit and I'm grinding hard, which totally blows her mind. She's like, you've been putting in the work for so long. And then people on the street start pointing her out because she's that hunter who hit B rank in like no time. Reno's low-key salty and asks who he's even talking to. He explains that she's his childhood friend and a super promising hunter. Plus she hates demons more than anyone on the planet for real. Then we get this flashback montage of Mako and Kaya from little kids to full-on teens. They were basically inseparable until this one awful day when Kaya ran into a demon. She and her brother are booking it for their lives when the guy just stops and turns to face the thing. He yells at his sister to just go while he squares up with this demon that's like more than twice his size. She's not about to leave him, but he's like, at least one of us has to make it. He desperately tries to fight back, but it's a total mismatch, and he gets taken out right in front of her. The whole thing completely messed her up. Then like 2 years ago, Kaya and Mako both got their sacred stones. He tells her he's sorry because his divine spirit is still a no-show. That means he can't keep his promise to fight with her. She gets it, but she looks him dead in the eye and says that she can't afford to wait and just leaves him there. Back to now, Mako and Kaya are grabbing dessert at some restaurant just catching up. She's seriously impressed that he cleared a D-ranked dungeon all by himself and is like, wow, you're really living up to the Mako name. Then she asks what kind of divine spirit he partnered with and he instantly starts sweating. The dude hesitates for a sec trying to figure out what to say. Reno is not having it, saying she could pop out any time, but then his friend would see she's a demon. So he tries to stall, saying his spirit is kind of shy. So an intro would be like super awkward. Reno's totally annoyed, like, I'm not shy. But he tells her the whole situation is just complicated, so Kaya's like, okay, I'll go first then. She holds up her hand with the green sacred stone, and this high-ranked divine wind spirit named Wave just appears. He looks like some super fancy butler and gives Mako a polite bow. He talks all proper and stuff as he says hello to Kaya's friend. Then she asks Mako if he's gonna do the rank reassessment, but he says it's still a ways off. So, she suggests they level up together and invites him to hit a C-rank dungeon with her. Mako looks stressed, saying the power gap between them is huge and he'd just slow her down. Ka just smiles, remembering how he always used to take the lead when they were kids, so now it's her turn to pay him back. She holds out her hand, inviting him. Mako can't say no to that, so he shakes her hand and says they did promise they'd fight side by side. Even though it's risky, it's also a major chance for him to get stronger. Meanwhile, Ka is totally glowing, so hyped that they're finally teaming up. Later that night, over at the Japan Hunter Association HQ, a bunch of important-looking suits are in a big meeting. The guy at the head of the table is like, let's get to the main topic, the Megan. Apparently these are crazy powerful beings, A rank or higher, that are smart like people. They've been keeping it on the down low for years. But lately at least a dozen hunters have gotten wrecked by them. Kamu, the president of the whole association, thinks back to his own fights with the Megan and remembers how insanely strong they were. He just laughs and says he'd totally take them on himself if he was still in his prime. Mim, the section chief, is not amused at all and points out that her management system shows all the gates are being cleared like they're supposed to be. Then Yugo strolls in just as someone says that according to the survivors, the Megan showed up asterisk after asterisk, the gates were cleared. He is still holding a bottle of booze and acts surprised the meeting already started. Mim is ticked that he's so late, but he's totally chill and tells her getting mad will just mess up her pretty face. He glances at the screen showing the hunters who died, and then says he might have an idea. Mim is skeptical, but he's all, don't worry, I got this. Kamu totally trusts Yugo and says he's counting on the S-rank hunter who just dips from the meeting. As he's walking away, he pictures Mako's face and wonders if his gut feeling is right. Somewhere else in this totally trashed and abandoned area, a purple gate pops up. Kaya asks Mako if he's nervous, and he's like, yeah, a little. It's not just that it's a higher level dungeon. He's also stressing about how she's gonna react when she finds out Reno is a demon. But Kaya tells him she'll protect him no matter what, which makes him feel a little better. Then we see the dungeon. It's this cave with a weird blue glow. The two of them step through the gate and are instantly swarmed by C-rank demons. Mako summons his shadow sword and is about to check out the scene, but he's shocked when Kaya just charges in without even thinking. She's insanely fast and just takes the head off one of the demons with her spear like instantly. Mako is blown away by how intense she is and how dead set she is on wiping out every single demon. Whoa, she was way more powerful than he thought. She turns to him like, I'm sensing some major demon vibes from over there. Then she's all, wait, is it you? As he's totally freaking out that she's figured him out. She just skewers a demon midair with her spear going straight through its body. Then she does this sick spin, slicing two demons clean in half. She turns to take on the others while Mako just watches totally blown away. Still, he wants to be useful, so he summons his weapon to handle the monsters on the ground. He blocks a demon's attack and then hits back with a nasty slash. The demons are now looking at him all spooked, seeing how much of a powerhouse he is. He's also leveled up, morphing his shadow sword into a freaking shadow gun and starts blasting. The shadow bullets are so insane that half or more of the demons' bodies just vaporize on impact. Kaya's jaw drops since she's never seen a power like that before. Just like that, the battle's over and Kaya touches down on the ground. She gives Mako props for holding his own even against some Z-rank baddies. Then she says she totally sensed a demonic vibe coming from him again, but now it's gone, so she figures it's all good. Our boy is seriously relieved he hasn't been exposed yet, but then Reno's like, dude, are you just gonna keep this act up forever? He remembers that his divine spirit isn't just some random demon. She's his ride or die partner. He looks at her thinking it'd be fine if he could just spill, but then he remembers how much she despises demons, and he's back to square one, totally lost. They keep pushing forward, and finally hit the door to the boss's room. She asks if his head's in the game, and he says yeah, but deep down he's a total wreck. Kaya picks up on his nerves and says she gets it since he's about to face a C-rank boss. She then reassures him, saying he's not alone, so he shouldn't be afraid to go all out. Mako cracks a smile and decides to save the heart-to-heart for later, and focus on wrecking this boss first. He thanks her, they share a quick fist bump, and then step into the boss's lair. They're met by the C-rank dungeon boss, a Cyclops that's like 3 times their size. Mako's just floored by its insane presence, while Kaya immediately snaps into action. She's dead set on taking down every demon no matter how strong, so she activates her wind spirit mantle again and rockets right at the huge beast. The Cyclops hefts its giant wooden club to smash her, but Mako casts Shadowbind, freezing its weapon in the air. This gives Kaya the perfect opening to land a direct hit, right in the monster's gut. It grinds its teeth and lets out a massive roar, shattering the Shadowbind. As Kaya jumps back, the two lock eyes and just seem to get it. What to do, and how to team up without saying a single word. They both leap at the monster, attacking in perfect sync from both sides. The monster howls in pain as Mako grins at their flawless timing. They both charge in again, delivering another perfectly synchronized attack that the Cyclops can't even block. Kaya is so happy they're totally on the same wavelength, switching positions and keeping it off balance. She zips in again and slashes the demon's chest. It raises its club, but Mako hits it with another Shadowbind from behind, giving it 0 chance to counter. The boss is way weaker now, so the bind holds easily as he yells for Kaya to use the opening and end this thing. She thanks him and then unleashes another ability. Wind Shower, which rains down green magic on the monster, finishing the fight for good. Mako thinks it's absolutely epic. Then he sees her running at him with a massive grin on her face. She calls out his name so full of joy, it makes her look even more stunning, making him blush. They slap a high five and celebrate what an awesome team they make. Still, he knows he can't get complacent and has to keep leveling up. Wave pops out of her stone and compliments their killer teamwork. She replies that it's because they've known each other for years, and says that as a team they're unstoppable. Mako, though, just gulps, knowing he can't keep his secret bottled up any longer. He says there's something he needs to tell her. He starts to pull the glove off his hand, but before he can finish, they both suddenly feel a new super dangerous presence. They whip their heads to the side and see a flash of energy slam into the ground like lightning. A demon materializes as the two hunters stare totally on edge. Then we see it's the two-horned demon who was spying on them when Reno became Mako's divine spirit. He says he's finally found them with a seriously evil look in his eyes. The demon looks crazy threatening as he strolls toward the two. Mako can feel this evil and intimidation rolling off him that's on a whole other level from any demon he's ever run into. On top of that, he's kind of intrigued that he's seeing a demon that looks so human. Kaya shoves Mako back. She steps in front of the guy to protect him while she asks if the enemy is a Magan. The demon is impressed she even knows the term and tells her that he is in fact the Magan named Grom. Kaya realizes the rumors about the Magan are for real. She powers up her wind ability and tells Mako to book it while she fights him. Mako is so not down with her plan and pleads for them to escape together. Kaya gathers a storm of wind in her hand. She shoots a laser-like beam of air toward the enemy. Grom dodges the attack without even trying. The Magan taunts that from his point of view she's moving in slow-mo. His trash talk makes Kaya grind her teeth. Mako watches the two go at it, and gets that they're in a completely different league from him. He clenches his fist so frustrated that he can't do a thing. Meanwhile, Grom just snatches Kaya's spear right out of the air as it flies at him. It stops the girl cold in her tracks. He then just flings Kaya away. He sees that she hasn't given up, though. Kaya is soaring through the air. Wade tells Kaya to use her secret technique. She forms a hand sign to get ready. She screams out her final move, Milestone! A bunch of tornadoes just erupt from her palm and totally slam into the demon. Mako's just over on the side trying not to get blown away while he watches the whole thing go down. Then Kaya hears this laugh. The demon just walks out of the crazy explosion without a single scratch. He's like, that was basically a light breeze girl. And that just makes her even more dead set on taking him out. She screams that she is gonna kill every single last demon as she charges straight for Grom. He just thinks that's hilarious, like super ironic. Kaya's like, what's so funny? And Grom just points over at Mako and spills the tea that he made a deal with a demon. Mako looks totally busted. Kaya yells at the Magan, you're lying! She screams that there's no way her friend would ever team up with a demon, nor would he ever keep a secret like that from her. But Mako just stands there totally silent, his fist clenched. Kaya sees how quiet he is and demands, tell me he's lying, Mako. But he can't even look her in the eye. He tells himself he has to come clean. He confirms that what Grom said is true. He summons Reno, and she appears right there. Kaya is completely floored. She can't wrap her head around a demon coming out of the sacred stone. Mako tries to introduce Reno to her, but Kaya just grips her spear tighter. She screams at him, you made a deal with a demon! She tells him she can never ever trust him again. Mako begs her to just talk, but Kaya isn't hearing any of it. She just charges straight at the Magan. Grom snatches her by the throat in midair. His grip gets tighter, choking the life out of her. He pulls back his other arm to finish her, but then shadow chains shoot out. Mako binds Grom's arm before he can strike Kaya. He yells at the Magan to back off. Grom just shatters the chains and grins like, finally decided to join the party, huh? Then he just tosses Kaya aside. Mako dives and catches her right before she hits the ground. He whispers an apology to the unconscious girl. Grom points at Reno, telling her, you're the one I'm really interested in. Mako asks Reno, you two know each other. She starts to explain that the Magan tried to get her to join their crew back when she first became a fallen angel, but she managed to get away. Mako finally gets just how messed up these Magan really are. Reno turns to Grom and says, demons are her enemy and she'll never ever join them. The Magan just laughs. He's like, for real, you could get revenge on the divine spirits who ditched you if you just came with us. Reno tells him straight up, I'm not interested in revenge. The Magan pushes her to just accept that she's a demon, now offering her the chance to take out as many divine spirits and humans as she wants if she joins them. Reno screams at him to just shut up. You can see the pain building inside her as tears start streaming down her face. Mako steps in front of his fallen angel, telling Grom, she's nothing like you. The Magan just looks confused, like, what are you even talking about? Mako explains that demon is just a label for people who hurt others for no reason. He declares, Reno is way too kind to be a demon. She's my partner. You can see Reno is totally moved by his words. To Grom, it all just sounds like a bunch of pathetic weak whining. He wants to absolutely crush Mako for all that sentimental friendship garbage. Mako and Reno brace themselves to fight him together. Grom starts to power up his arms, getting ready for the fight. Reno whispers to Mako to use the guy's arrogance against him to find an opening so they can get out of here. but Grom looks ready for anything they can throw at him. The Magan suddenly dashes forward. He looks seriously terrifying as he closes in on them. Mako gets into a defensive stance, but in a split second the demon is already behind him. He lands a kick that sends Mako flying. Mako gets slammed hard into a rock wall. As he's trying to recover, Grom closes in. Mako quickly uses Shadowbind and chains Shootout, grabbing the demon's arms and legs. Then with his free hand, Mako creates a gun out of thin air, but Grom just shatters his chains. He then casually catches the bullet heading for him. He snatches every single one out of the air. Then he opens his hand and lets them all drop. The Magan smirks. Got any other tricks up your sleeve? Mako is so frustrated. This guy is totally just playing with him. Kaya starts to wake up, and through her blurry vision, she can just make out the two of them fighting. She slowly, shakily gets to her feet. The reality of how serious this is starts to hit her. She can see that Mako and his demon are desperately trying to hold Grom back. Then she sees Grom land a solid punch on Mako. She screams his name, totally terrified. But she sees Mako and Reno are still on their feet, not backing down. She sees that Reno is right there with Mako supporting him 100%. She realizes they have a real bond, him and his demon, and keeps wondering why Mako would ever make a pact with her. Her heart just sinks, thinking she can't trust him anymore. Grom lands a kick on Mako, then another even faster. He's laughing at how hard Mako is struggling, but Mako still refuses to go down. He finally stops for a second to catch his breath. Mako admits, I know I'm weaker than you. He tightens his grip on his shadow sword, and this dark energy just starts pouring off him as he declares, but I will never give up. Kaya is so moved when she hears him say that. It reminds her of the week after her brother died. She was in her house, locked away in her dark room, refusing to come out for anyone, except Mako. He came to see her, telling her that her mom was really worried about her since she hadn't eaten in days. The lifeless Kaya barely even looked at him. She admitted she'd lost the will to live. You could just see the sadness in Mako's eyes for her. He tried to comfort her, begging her not to give up. He told her that if she gave up, she'd really lose everything. But you could see in her eyes his words weren't getting through. So Mako told her how he also fell apart when his parents were killed. That is, until he realized that the people who survive have to find their own reason to keep going. She finally looked up at him. She saw tears in his eyes as he told her, never ever give up. You have to find a way to look forward. Thinking about that moment totally makes Kaya's eyes well up. She remembers it was Mako who got her out of bed, the one who gave her a reason to look forward to things again. Mako somehow manages to block Grom's hit with his sword, but he still goes flying. Even so, the dude gets right back up. He yells at the demon that this is so not over. Kaya sees he's not giving up. It hits her that he's still the same strong-hearted guy she's always known. She forces herself to get up, telling herself that Mako hasn't changed at all, even after making a pact with the demon. She screams her support, telling Mako to never ever give up. He hears her and is completely shocked. With tears streaming down her face, Kaya smiles and tells him to give it his all and take down the Magan. Mako smiles back. Grom chews him out for looking away in the middle of an attack. Mako blocks the strike, and Grom is actually surprised. He sees Mako digging in his heels to stand his ground. As he dodges, Mako can only think about how he hurt Kaya. He's just so happy to know she trusts him no matter what. That gives him all the motivation he needs to win. He starts slicing like crazy and Grom realizes he's gotten way faster. Mako stays on the attack. His blade gets super close, just inches from the demon's left eye. Finishing his swing, he declares that they're going to live and make it back home. Blood splatters on the floor. Grom pulls back and the fight pauses for a sec. You can see Grom's got a fresh cut on his left cheek. Kaya is super impressed. The Magan just licks the blood from his cheek like it's all a game. He figures it's about time he ended this. He starts gathering energy in his hand, and Mako instantly feels how crazy unstable that power is. Grom asks Reno one last time to join them. He tells her if she says yes, he might just let the humans walk. Reno says nothing. Mako looks over at her with a totally confident smile. Reno smiles right back. She answers that she and Mako will never bow down to a demon. Grom's reply, fine then, you'll die with them. A massive wave of energy blasts from the Magan's hand right at them. The trio braces for the hit. Mako still has that I'm gonna win look on his face. Then out of nowhere, a portal opens up in front of them and just sucks up the energy blast. Everyone is floored. The portal keeps absorbing the energy until it's all gone. A hand grabs Mako's shoulder from behind. A voice tells Grom he won't let some demon snuff out the very people who are gonna paint a bright future. Grom demands to know who it is. And it's Yugo still holding his sake bottle while he calls out the Magan. The S-rank hunter makes a seriously heroic entrance, saving them just in the nick of time. Seeing their shocked faces, Yugo gives them props for their effort and says he'll handle the rest. The power gap between them is insane. The hunter's presence alone is totally overwhelming the area. Grom is intrigued by this new guy, dead certain he's way stronger than the others. The hunter just confidently agrees, saying he's much stronger than the demon. Ignoring the enemy's boiling rage, he says first things first, he's gotta avenge his injured juniors. He then summons Nova, his special class divine spirit. Ready to go, the demon plants his feet, hoping this guy isn't just all talk. Grom launches himself forward to strike first, but his fist is caught dead in midair. Gripping his fist tight, Yugo asks him to spare his face, cause it's important for his image. With shocking strength, he just yeets his enemy away. As the demon is sent flying, a weird portal swirls open behind him and swallows him up. It spits the demon right back out in front of the S-rank hunter. Still dazed, he doesn't have time to react before he's welcomed back with a massive punch. As he goes flying, he's told that it must be confusing when what you're thinking and what's happening don't line up. The dungeon shook from the force of the blow, but the battle itself went dead silent. Mako asks how a punch could be so effective when only divine power is supposed to hurt demons. Turns out Yugo has coated his entire body in that power, but even with that, his strength is just on another level. Cursing the unexpected beatdown he's getting, Grom summons a ball of magic and fires a beam of darkness at his opponent. Without even bothering to dodge, the hunter stood his ground and cast a spell of his own. The huge ray of light shot out, completely eating the demon's magic. The Magan was stunned, unable to believe he was being so totally overpowered. He barely dodges a direct hit, but the blast radius is so big it still takes his entire arm off. As the enemy screamed in pain, Mako was just mesmerized by his ally, who hadn't even moved a single inch from where he was standing. Grom managed to dodge the spell, but not without getting fatally injured. Pushed into a corner, the Magan was seething with rage. Still reeling, he unleashes a burst of magic with some serious killing intent. But before he could do anything else, Fane appeared to hold him back. The whole vibe in the room instantly got super heavy, putting the hunters on high alert. Grom looked back furious, demanding to know why his comrade was interrupting. Fane called him a fool, telling him he'll die for sure if he uses his spells in his current state. Turning to Yugo, the powerful demon acknowledged his strength, saying a fight would only end up hurting them both. The hunter agrees with a smile, saying he definitely looks tough. With that, they agree to call it a draw and dip for now. Grom tries to argue, dead set on finishing the fight with one winner. But one commanding glare from Fane is all it takes to make him shut up and obey. Before leaving, he gives them one last nasty look, swearing he'll come back for their heads someday. Then the portal closes, leaving the hunters alone in the dungeon. And then silence. The insane battle was over, and Yugo was just thinking, did we actually make it out? Suddenly, Mako calls out to him and gives this super dramatic deep bow, totally grateful. At least for now. They figure they'll chat on the way back to the surface. You know, catch up and spill the tea. Apparently, the S-ranker was low-key suspicious from the jump, thinking he might have a pact with a demon. Based on how the Magan were acting, he figured they were being targeted, so he followed them from a distance. Anyway, he asked the two hunters if they've, made up yet. Kaya realizes her friend hasn't changed a bit, even with the whole demon pack situation. Her vibe gets super cold, and she turns to Reno like, just so you know, I still don't trust you no matter what our history is. Bordering on full-on hostile, the fallen angel is basically like, do what you want. While Mako's trying to get them to chill, Yugo's seriously thinking about the former spirit, convinced she's some kind of major key to all this. So he welcomes her and her partner's humanity, feeling this sudden wave of hope and getting it. The young hunter cracks a smile. Totally hyped on this new vibe, he rushes over to the other hunter and declares his new goal. He's gonna get way, way stronger than he is right now. Everyone's kinda shook by his sudden burst of energy, but they're all smiling and backing him up. Yugo then just dashes off, leaving them all behind, shouting that he's looking forward to the day they can all fight as a team. Later, the top hunter gives the chairman the full scoop on what went down, adding that the demons will probably chill out for a while. Camus thanks him, totally glad that he left everything in such capable hands. Then he changes the subject, asking if he remembers that former rank hunter you say. Dude's now a legit criminal who went after other hunters after getting kicked out for bad behavior. They had him locked down for a minute, but he just ghosted the other day. Since Yugo's got his own stuff to handle, he can't jump on this. But thinking about Mako and Kaya, he says he's got two promising rookies he can recommend. As they hang up, Camus apologizes to someone else in the room for making them wait. He sits down, ready to listen. Across from him is Yusei's former apprentice, an A-rank hunter, named Uji, who's sworn to stop his old master's insane crime spree. Way back before all this went down, Uji was looking out over the city with his master, declaring his goal to become a perfect hunter someday. Yusei just groaned about how uptight he was, saying he didn't sign up for a boring disciple. He was like, dude, you put in all this work to be a hunter, you should at least enjoy the ride. But Uji's all like, my responsibilities come first. And his master just tells him to forget all that. You can be a hero just by trashing demons, but all the rules just get in the way. Even so, he should chase his own ideals and never ever become the association's lapdog. The younger one takes the advice sarcastically, saying he won't be like his mentor. It was a perfect day and the sun was shining down on all the joggers like usual. While out on a run with Kaya, Mako was telling her how he and Reno bought flowers after clearing that dungeon. Thanks to them, his room was getting way more cheerful. Kinda curious and just playing along, she asks what the demon's into. Besides flowers, he wants her to ask herself, so he raises his fist and his partner chimes in. All they get is a super short dismissive answer, and she's told to be a little friendlier since they're supposed to be on the same team. But the demon just claps back with some serious tude, saying she's the one who refuses to trust them. Mako tries to play mediator, asking them to just get along even a little bit, but he's immediately told to shut it. While he's staying quiet, they overhear people talking about some hunter criminal who busted out of prison. Totally freaked out by the news, some people decide to just call it a day and head home. When asked if she knows anything, Kaya starts spilling about Yusei, who's known for being crazy skilled. Considering the messed up stuff he did, they wonder, what could have possibly made him snap like that? Just then, both their phones go off. They check and see they've both gotten an email from the association. And what's crazy is the two of them are being summoned like right now, all because Yugo put in a good word. They decide to just head over there. At the association headquarters, they're met by Hayashi from the Abnormal Measures Department. Because the S-ranker gave them such a glowing review, they're being trusted with the mission to track down the criminal. The cops are already investigating, but the association needs to make a move too. I mean, it's totally possible the target is hiding out in the gate closest to his escape route. As hunters, their job is to go investigate that C-rank gate. Mako's confidence totally tanks when he hears their opponent is a former A-ranker. Then he's told another person is joining their team. The association requested backup from a hunter with a similar rank, who should be here any second. As he says that, Uji walks into the room and Kaya has a super loud reaction. The hunter just gives her this cold look, saying it's been a while since they've seen each other. As Hayashi leaves the room, he tells them to check out the files for more info. Catching up, the two former partners talk about how they cleared a gate together a long time ago. Uji is basically the only genius from their generation who managed to climb to A rank. Totally psyched to work with a guy like him, Mako holds out his hand for a handshake. Even though the top-ranking hunter says his name back, he completely ignores the handshake, shutting down any chance of being friends. Instead, he just gets straight to the point and says he has zero intention of teaming up with them. Kaya's totally floored and asks why, since she's ready to go. To be real, he says he doesn't need their help and they'll only, just be a total drag on him. He's decided this is his problem to solve and he's gonna find his old master solo. The dude just turned to leave, totally blowing her off when she kept yelling for him to wait. It was Mako's turn to speak up and he was like, no way, saying they absolutely had to team up again. Uji says they'll just get in the way, but Mako argues that the search will be way easier for him if they're the ones clearing the gate of demons. In other words, going it alone is just the least smart way to do things. His logic actually hit home with the A-ranker who hadn't bounced yet. Trying to prove they were actually useful, the two promised they'd give it their all. Convinced, the hunter just sighed like he was giving up and told them to do whatever they wanted. That said, he's gonna do the same, and this time he left without even a glance back. Since that was basically a plan, the two decided to shadow their friend. Meanwhile, at some abandoned building, the chains and barricades were scattered all over the ground. A small crew wandered in with flashlights looking to make it their new turf. Getting all hyped, they started talking about each taking a floor and checked out the classrooms. Then all of a sudden, they see this giant thing in the middle of the room just frozen solid in midair. It's a dungeon gate and it's completely covered in thick ice. They immediately whip out their phones to hit up the association and get the hunters to deal with this mess because it suddenly got dead quiet. One of the guys looked back and found his two buddies frozen solid. He totally freaked and hit the deck, and his flashlight lit up a figure in the shadows. Before he could even move, the guy was flash frozen and then shattered into a million little pieces. Yusei made short work of them, muttering that he's gotta find a better hiding spot. As the bodies he didn't need started piling up, he stared at the frozen gate and said he wasn't wrong. To him, goal number 1 is getting revenge on the association. Deep in the woods, a gate was just pulsing with power. Before heading in, Uji gives them one last reminder that he's doing things his way. Mako's like, yo, wait, wanting to tell him something before the mission kicked off. He said if they're really gonna work together, he needs to know the deal with Remo. The hunter then reveals that Yugo already gave him the rundown on the whole Demon Pact thing. They were totally floored by his reaction and asked if he wasn't gonna judge them for it. To him, a contract isn't automatically evil. It's what you do that counts. Mako was just blown away by how open-minded he was. So Kei basically confirms that Uji isn't as bad as he thinks. The top hunter stepped into the gate while Mako smiled, totally relieved to find out there are people who think that way. Inside the gate, it looked like they'd stepped into some kind of castle. The party booked it through and were soon face to face with the spider dungeon boss. And as you'd expect from a C-ranker, it was not gonna go down easy. It lunged with insane speed, going straight for Mako. But Uji moved even faster and trapped the whole enemy in a thick casing of ice. They just stared in shock, watching the spider get frozen in a split second. It cracked and then shattered, crashing to the ground in pieces a moment later. They totally didn't expect it, but the A-ranker showed up with his spirit Yuki and gave them backup. Thanking him for the save, they asked about his search, but he said it was already over. He found 0 clues, not a single trace, so there was no point in them sticking around any longer. Still, it was wild how he instantly smoked the boss. The same one even Kaya was struggling with. She started to go after the self-centered hunter, but then noticed Mako wasn't moving. Grinning like crazy, he told them a new ability just unlocked for him during the fight. It's called Residual Shadow Sense, and it finds traces of shadows to pinpoint a target. This immediately got Uji's attention. If it's within 24 hours, the skill can literally follow the shadow footsteps of whoever was there. Running over to the former disciple, he excitedly said they might actually find their target this way. asked if any place came to mind he thought about it, and said there's a hill nearby where he and his master used to talk a lot. Without saying anything else, Uji just started walking, and they could only guess he meant for them to follow. A bit later, they made it to the hill he was talking about and looked out over the city. He never imagined he'd come back here after what his master did, pointing out how the place must hold a ton of memories for his friend. Uji told Mako to quit wasting time and use the skill already. As he did what he was told, darkness washed over his eyes and spread out over the area like a grid. Right there, they saw footsteps made of shadows clearly showing where the target had moved. With that, he confirmed someone had been there. It was just one person, and he couldn't make out who, but they stood right where Uji was. Pushing his ability further, he materialized the shadow's features, and just like that, a figure of Uji appeared. Seeing it, the disciple confirmed his master had been there. But he got super down, asking himself why he would even think of coming here. He used to wonder why his master always brought him to this spot, but was told he was just tagging along, and the top hunter just came there to take a break. Looking over the city made him feel free, and it became his thing to shake off his doubts. That very same day, he told his student to live a life not tied down by anything. That memory hit him, and he remembered all the things he'd learned and started to calm down. Mako was worried about him, but Uji just brushed it off, saying they needed to get going. Since they knew his exact location now, they headed out immediately. Uji probably worked through some stuff on that hill, but his endgame is still a total question mark. Meanwhile, in the association's gate management system department, Miss Hin was staring at her screen when she was like, "Whoa, something's super off." She zoomed in, and then it hit her something major, and she totally freaked, putting everyone on high alert. She was yelling for the internal light like right now. Getting prepped, she shouted out to everyone there. She dropped the bomb that a gate break might be happening and told all the hunters to get out there and find it ASAP. So the trio was booking it through the forest trying to catch their guy. Then out of nowhere, all their phones started blowing up at once. It was a code red from the association. They had no clue where the gate was, so their new mission was to find its exact location like yesterday. If Mako was remembering right, it was supposed to take 7 whole days for a gate to go critical. But since this one could pop off any second, they had to hustle, which meant they might lose Yuzo's trail. Then Uji remembered his master, how he'd always go to that hill to clear his head. And just like that, it clicked. He had a pretty good guess what that rogue hunter was up to. He suddenly grabbed the new guy and was like, "Lead the way and make it snappy. Our target's goal is to make this gate blow." Mako got it instantly and took point. And they just tore through the woods. Before long, they hit this creepy abandoned school following those shadow trails. The trail went right inside, which pretty much confirmed where their guy and probably the gate was. And then bam! This massive beam of darkness shot out of the school's roof straight up into the sky. Everything went dark, and for 2 of them, that sight brought back a memory they could never ever forget. It was burned into their minds, because it was the same thing they saw the day they lost their families. So they powered up on the spot. They had to stop those demons, no questions asked. The windows shattered, and like a zillion enemies started swarming out. The hunters just charged right in, trying to take down as many as they could to keep the chaos on the DL. They were absolutely shredding through the monsters, trying to hold the line until backup showed up. While the 2 were giving it their all, Uji made this sick ice ramp straight into the school. Then he just bounced, going in all by himself, totally ditching them to handle the swarm on their own. Seriously, that lone wolf hunter was doing his own thing again. So now they had to tough it out, completely gassed from the nonstop fighting. And yeah, they were about to hit their breaking point. But then these huge magic blasts came out of nowhere, wiping out waves of bad guys in a flash. They'd done an awesome job holding on, and the cavalry had finally arrived to crash the party. Seeing everyone else rush in, he was shook by how many hunters showed up and decided he needed to step up his game. But people were starting to notice they couldn't sense any mana from the new kid. If he kept going all out like that, his secret was going to be blown. He couldn't just bail on them, but luckily, Kaya whipped up this insane storm, taking out a bunch of monsters, and told him to let her handle it and go back up Uji. He was so grateful he could have kissed her. And then he bolted straight into the school, ready to wreck any demons in his way. As he searched for the gate, he went deeper inside, and suddenly the air got super cold. He peeked into a classroom and saw someone was already in a fight. There were these massive ice spikes all over the place, and some gnarly monster was frozen solid. Uji just shattered it into a million pieces, taking out the gate boss like it was nothing. Walking back to Mako, he told him Yusei was already gone. He was like, "Even if we stop this, it's pointless. He'll just try this crap again." But the new kid totally disagreed, saying it wasn't pointless at all. Which really ticked off the top ranker, cause who was this kid acting like he knew everything? Mako's eyes were glowing with this dark aura, reminding Uji that his power was the whole reason they even found this place. So thinking about that, it was way too soon to give up. Since Uji iced the boss so fast, they could totally still catch Yusei. Mako grabbed the disciple and was like, "Come on, we gotta go before he gets away." For a second, all Uji could see was Mako's back and his hand pulling him along. It snapped him out of it. He got his head straight and thanked his teammate for pulling him back from the edge. Mako was like, "Save the thank yous for later." They agreed to deal with that stuff after this was all over. Then the 2 of them took off following those shadow trails, rushing to shut this whole thing down for good. A little later, they got to the association's main system headquarters, exactly where the shadow was leading them. If that gate management system got wrecked, the whole world would basically implode into chaos. The place was already a total disaster zone with huge ice blocks and rubble everywhere. And what was even more messed up there were employees frozen solid all over the floor. They were too late. The security hunters, the staff, literally everyone had already been taken out. Uji just sprinted ahead, leaving the new kid behind. He followed the path of destruction, racing deeper into the building. And right in the center of it all was Yusei, who was just a few feet away from the main generator. He'd planted some massive explosive on it, and it was beeping, ready to blow the whole association sky high. Right then, a bunch of ice shards flew at him, but he blocked them like it was nothing. Uji had made it just in the nick of time to try and stop the guy who used to be his master. The reunion was super awkward, with the master telling him not to ruin his fun, since everything was going so perfectly. With the two of them face to face again, Uji declared that his master's whole evil plan was ending right here, right now. Since he said it with so much confidence, Yusei just flicked his finger and made a giant ice wall shoot up and block the entrance. It was crazy thick, no way anyone was getting through. And since this was their big reunion, he didn't want any interruptions. They could hear Mako totally pounding on it from the other side. But then the master just drops the question, "You want to get some payback?" Uji's eyes are like steel, as he says straight up that he can't go easy on him. Not after everything. He's still the same guy. Yusei summons Flow, his top-tier divine spirit, and basically tells his student to bring it, like Uji needed the reminder he was already going for it. There's only one way to win this, and that's to wreck the traitor and that device. If he just tries to stall for backup, he's totally dead, so he conjures a bunch of ice pikes, knowing this whole thing has to end like right now. Watching the projectiles fly, Yusei gives him props for leveling up as a hunter. Too bad they're nothing against the guy who literally taught him the moves. Using the exact same spell, the master completely overpowers his student's attack. A head-on fight is a bad look, so Uji whips out 2 ice blades. The traitor just smirks, totally amused, reminding him who taught him that technique in the first place. Like he doesn't already know, he summons his own ice blade. It's rougher but way stronger. For his first play, the student chucks one of his weapons, using it just like a dagger. Yusei just bats it aside, kinda shocked he'd give up the 2-sword advantage so fast. Now all he has to do is watch out for his opponent's armed left side. He totally wasn't expecting another blade to come flying from the right too. They zip past each other, and he barely ducks to keep his head. And get this, the kid's already made a new sword. The fight gets crazy intense, and the young hunter just keeps going after the vet, relentlessly throwing his blades at him. It's a pretty slick tactic that only works because his ice-making speed is way faster. Yusei's actually impressed, surprised, and hyped by Uji's new style. With a look as icy as his powers, the student says he's not the same guy anymore, and he's sure his strategy is winning. But Yusei feels like he's being seriously dissed. He decides it's time to get real and show off his new trick. Meanwhile, across the room, Mako was just wailings on the ice wall. But the dude who made it is crazy strong, so all they can do is just keep at it. This huge chunk of ice next to Yusei was getting bigger, like it was turning into something. After a sec, a perfect clone appears, making Uji's whole 2-sword thing totally useless. The student's like, "No way some lame doll is that tough," thinking that he charges in all confident. But surprise, the lame doll completely blocks his blade, and he can't push it back an inch. He gets thrown back and is told the clone thinks for itself, and is just as strong as the original. Uji's scrambling, trying to figure out how to handle this perfect copy doll. Now it's 2 against 1, and it sucks that his buddy can't help. Mako hears what's going down and tries to speed things up. While the bomb keeps ticking down, the fight gets even crazier with ice blades clashing everywhere. The student tries to fight off the clone but gets so focused on it that he totally leaves an opening for Yusei to strike. A quick combo sends him flying all banged up, but the assault isn't over. As the master keeps blasting endless ice shards at him, watching his student struggle to defend the traitor, just laughs, saying it's been a while since he's seen him so fired up. Uji's gasping, exhausted, and in pain, and can't believe how much stronger Yusei is. He grits his teeth, totally pissed. Like, if he's so powerful, why waste all that insane talent on being a villain? Hearing that Yusei is like evil me, nothing's changed since they first met. He's just being more real with himself now. Any hunter trying to beat monsters would do whatever it takes to close the most gates. But the world is held back by the association. And he's just so over their system. So he ignored their rules and crushed tons of gates, but got kicked out for it. Uji calls him out for being a murderer, and Yusei gives him this bone-chilling stare. He's like, "What's wrong with taking out some mindless dogs who just follow the association's orders?" It finally hits Uji that there's no way to defend this guy anymore. With this gate break happening, the whole gate system is gonna crash, and the association will go down with it. For his revenge, he's sworn to free all the hunters from the tyrants holding their leashes. Uji just curses him and his twisted ideals, realizing he's seriously not the same person. Even though he's shaking and weak, he gets back on his feet, refusing to just let this happen. As his former student, he swears he's gonna stop him right here, right now. But Yusei's like, "You can talk all you want," cause he's already trapped, frozen straight to the floor. Uji didn't even notice the ice crawling up his legs. Now with his arms and legs stuck, he's completely helpless. As his old master points a blade at his head, ready to say goodbye, he lifts his weapon. But right then, the wall blocking the door just explodes. Mako comes crashing into the fight, and a swing of his hammer splits them up, putting himself right in the middle. He tells the traitor to cut the crap. Mako smashes the ice off Uji's limbs, freeing him up to move again. As he's breaking the ice, he tells Uji with total confidence that he knows how to shatter this stuff. The whole time, he was pounding on that wall, desperate to get in and help. Just having his friend there makes him smile. Meanwhile, Yusei overhears the boast about knowing how to break his ice. The master's totally skeptical, thinking he's just another piece of association trash. Now that the teams are even, a new fight kicks off. Since dealing with a guy like Uji is already a pain, Yusei decides to take out the weak link first to get the advantage back. But as he swung his blade, Uji jumped in between them to protect his partner. Gripping his weapon, he swears he'll be the one to take him down. Yusei, totally annoyed, just tells his clone to deal with Mako for him. They totally collide, trading hits back and forth. The attacks are wicked sharp, and those swings are seriously heavy. But then a flash of Grom pops into his head, looking just as twisted and evil as that demon. Remembering that insane near-death fight actually calms him down body and soul. He glances back, worried sick about Mako, knowing he's probably having a rough go. Seeing that Uji's totally distracted, Yusei smirks, guessing he's thinking about his buddy. He's like, still, there's no way he can beat my spell. Just as the words leave his mouth, the clone gets sliced clean in two with a single swing. That dark slice just tore right through, and both the master and his old student are in total shock. Mako stands there looking all victorious and intense and is like, this is nothing compared to Grom. Yusei knocks Uji back, and suddenly it clicks. He totally figures out that Mako must have made a deal with the demon. Acting all high and mighty, he tries to give some advice, asking if he can really enjoy life, while hiding the fact he's teamed up with a demon. He looks at the conflicted kid and suggests they join forces to fix this messed up world together. For a second, Mako quietly admits he might have a point. But he knows one thing for sure: no matter how he lives, his mission is to save the world as a hunter. And this traitor, everything he's done so far is just as bad as any demon. And with that, he's dead set on taking him down hunter to hunter. Hearing that, it dawns on Uji too. Labels like master and student don't mean a thing to a hunter. Like Mako said, he's just another evil that needs to be taken out. Fueled by this new resolve, the two of them face him down. He just scoffs, asking if they're really that eager to get wrecked. Totally insulted and ticked off, he zips forward and nails both hunters in a flash. They're completely stunned. They thought they were ready for him. The two realize way too late that this top-tier hunter has been holding back his real power this whole time. Yusei starts laying on the pressure, unleashing this insane storm of attacks. Mako can barely hang on. The guy's moves are on a whole other level than that clone. Desperate to help, he fires up his shadow search ability. This dark energy surrounds his eyes, and suddenly he can see the enemy's after images. Based on the trails of his movements, he can totally predict where he's going to strike next. But still, it would be way better if he could somehow share this vision with his friends. Reno pipes up in his head, saying it's totally possible if he just puts some of his mana on his allies' eyes. So he does exactly that, and that same dark energy swirls around Uji's face. He looks at Yusei and suddenly sees the afterimages, realizing this must be what Mako's seeing. Following the path laid out for him, he perfectly dodges the next attack, and even lands a counter hit of his own. But dang, it's still not enough to beat the master's insane skills. Just as Uji was about to get finished, his partner appears in a flash, knocking one of Yusei's blades aside. It finally hits Yusei. They're reading his moves. He dodges a swing and jumps back for a sec, cursing them out for this new power. He lets his blades vanish, and tells them not to get cocky. Uji recognizes that stance, and knows he's about to end this with pure raw power. Yusei gathers his energy, ready to unleash his ultimate move and wipe them out. But Uji's like, no way, and mirrors the exact same stance. Just like that, the two hunters summon their own ice dragons, each one a perfect reflection of their fury and magic skill. The two ultimate attacks collide, and the master's dragon just straight up devours the students. As the dragons shatter, the icy mist clears, revealing who won the fight. Yusei's standing there all proud, but he's totally clueless that his two opponents are right behind him, knowing he'd be frozen in place. They pop out of nowhere, blades just inches from his neck. He whips around, totally confused, yelling that it should be impossible. But when he sees their faces, the two hunters just deliver the final blow. The attack pierces right through his chest, slicing the detonator in half too. And just like that, the former A-rank hunter collapses, caught by his old student. Uji admits he kinda liked his master's way of thinking, that whole carefree vibe, and wished he could be like that. But sadly, the guy chose the wrong path. So yeah, this is it for his master. Watching them, Mako realizes that everyone messes up, and even the strongest people can fall. Still with Reno by his side, he's gotta stick to the path they both believe in. Now that it's over, things finally start to chill out, and the gate break at the school is contained. The association guys should be here any minute to take Yusei away. The traitor is all tied up, his wounds frozen over with ice. Uji knows he couldn't have won alone, and probably would have been toast without Mako. So he gives the younger hunter a serious look of thanks, telling him he owes him one. They finally shake hands, a sign of mutual respect. And just like they thought, the association shows up for Yusei. They thank the two hunters for helping them secure the target. Right as they're about to bounce, someone grabs Mako and holds him tight. He looks back totally confused, like, what's the big deal? A dude gets out of a car talking about reports that Mako's been mixed up with a demon. It's Renji, the chief of the anti-normality department, and he says Mako's gotta be taken in too. Next thing you know, Mako's at the association HQ, all tied up and warned not to make any sudden moves. As he follows the guys who grabbed him, they tell him they're heading to a conference room where they'll decide what to do with him. Great, just as he expected. Flexing his powers in front of the other hunters last night is totally gonna backfire on him. When they get there, he's told to act right before going inside. He walks in and is met with a room full of some real heavy hitters. The chairman and Yugo are there looking super chill as they greet him. But on the flip side, a couple of others are just giving him the ultimate death stare. The vibe in the room got super heavy like instantly as the meeting got rolling. Their main topic is going to be all about Mako's whole situation with the demon. Based on what they talk about, they'll figure out what to do by sizing up the kid's situation. They didn't waste any time and just hit him with it, asking straight up if he for real has a contract with the demon. They're only asking because they already know the truth, so lying will only make things worse for him. With that, he's like, "Reno, get out here." The fallen angel pops up, giving them all an icy look. The second the S-ranker Tsubasa saw the human-looking demon, he totally lost it, with rage that he wasn't just working with a demon but a crazy powerful magin. He's fuming that Mako's acting so bold and tries to just straight up delete her right then and there. Mako dives between them, trying to protect his partner. The super bright red beam of mana blasted out, but a familiar portal popped up and just swallowed it whole. Yugo had jumped in to save them, calling his buddy out for jumping the gun. Since the discussion had barely started, he suggests everyone just take a seat for now. Still totally heated. Tsubasa threatens to erase him too, arguing that talking is just a waste of time. But since he couldn't really back that up, he takes a seat and the kid is told to start explaining. Mako kicks things off by dropping the truth bomb that Reno is a fallen angel. It's a story that's like impossible to believe since they've never even heard of that happening. Just then Nova showed up and whispered something to Yugo. Getting the picture, Yugo asks her to fill everyone else in too. Turns out even in the divine world there are whispers about an angel falling from grace and becoming a demon. Since this totally backs up Mako's story, he thanks her for having his back. Looking pretty pleased, he asks if there's any reason for them to keep arguing. That said, it's still a fact that she's a demon, and taking out their kind is the association's whole job. Renji jumped in, wondering how she even lost her angel status. All he got back was crickets, and even Mako started to sweat. Reno says she can't spill any details other than confirming she's a demon now. Refusing to talk is not helping their situation at all, because it makes it look like she could be a spy working against them. They swear she's not a dangerous demon, but they have no real way to prove it and show they're not lying. He goes quiet, feeling the heat from all their stares and scrambling to think of anything to do. As the tension got so thick you could cut it with a knife, it was completely shattered when someone just waltzed in with a little hum. A young woman showed up saying sorry for being late and that she passed out 2 times because the bed was just too comfy. She gets called out for being late, which is so not a good look for an S-ranker. She tells them to take it up with the bed instead, and asks for a recap on the topic. Her reaction is super lukewarm considering how heavy things are. Before they move on, she mentions that there are a couple of people standing by the door outside. While everyone else is confused, Yugo just cracks a smile, saying he's finally got his shot. Calling out to the visitors, he tells them to come on in. The doors swing open and in walk Uji and Kaya. Everyone was totally shook, never expecting to see those 2 hunters there. When someone asks why they're even being allowed in, he says they're part of this too, and even gets the okay from the chairman. After thinking for a sec, Camus lets them stay, wanting to hear from the people who know the kid best. With that, the 2 of them stand right by his side, but Mako's worried that this is just going to drag them down with him. Uji asks them to remember that they never would have been able to capture Yusei without Mako's help. Kaya adds that they fought Imagine once, and Reno wouldn't have helped them if she was actually evil. Finishing up, she sincerely begs for them to just think about it, asking them to believe in their friends who fought so hard against their enemies. Mako can't help but get all emotional. And Renji admits that it must be a huge deal if even Kaya, who despises demons, is going this hard for her. Yugo says it's proof she isn't a threat right now, but he can't promise what'll happen down the road. With this, he throws out this wild idea that the 2 of them have the potential to literally save the world as they know it. Tsubasa scoffs, calling him a total dreamer since the risk of her turning on them is way higher. Since it's their job to deal with this stuff, Yugo volunteers to take full responsibility if it all goes south. As the vibe got tense all over again, he doubles down on his faith in their potential, saying they're the best shot they have at beating the demons. Whatever happens, Mako is not about to let his allies' efforts go to waste. Soon enough, it's decision time, and everyone who wants to see him disciplined is told to raise their hands. Tsubasa and Renji shoot their hands up, while the other 2 S-rankers just smile at each other and keep their arms down. Himi's move is seriously ticking them off, so she explains that it's not every day Yugo sticks his neck out like this. With the vote split right down the middle, all eyes turn to the chairman for the final call. The old man was quiet, just lost in thought. After a minute, he opened his eyes, staring like he could see right into their souls. For now, he wants to hear their side of the story before he makes his choice. Looking at Reno first, he asks her straight up why she made a contract with her partner. Looking like she actually respects the guy, she first gets down on the floor facing the humans and explaining that she just wanted to help him because his heart was breaking. Besides, she says demons are her enemies too. And she's dead set on taking them down with Mako. The chairman's like, "So Hunter got anything to add?" Thinking about his fam, he's like, "I can't just stand by and watch people get taken out for no reason." That's why he's gonna go all out against the demons. He's basically putting himself on the line, telling them to use him to save the world. The whole room goes dead silent, and it looks like even Tsubasa is feeling his words. After thinking it over for a sec, Kamu's like, "All right, I've decided." You could hear a pin drop while everyone waited for the chairman's call. For now, Mako and Reno get to keep doing their thing, but the association is going to be watching them like a hawk. The decision totally shocked almost everyone except for Yugo, who had this satisfied smirk. Tsubasa looked like he couldn't believe it, and was seriously questioning the old man's judgment. Like he never saw that coming from a guy like him. The hunter is straight up refusing to accept it without a solid reason. Kamu just lets out this tired sigh and explains that he can see they're an asset to the association, and that alone is a big deal. Plus, he looked Mako straight in the eye and didn't see a single lie. And even though the future is a total question mark, he's not getting soft like they might think. Since nobody can pull one over on the chairman, Tsubasa finally backs off and goes with the call. So moving on to the terms, he wants the fallen angel to spill everything she knows about the Magan. On top of that, they've got to build up their rep by taking down some demons. If they can stick to these rules, they should be able to earn everyone's trust pretty quick. Mako is totally down and accepts the super generous offer, even bowing to thank them for getting it. So now they have to lay out everything they know about demons, no holding back. Uji and Kaya get told to bounce so they can keep things on the down low. Since what they know about demons is pretty limited, the chairman brings up the Magan and wants the deets on their power and how many there are. From what Reno knows, there are like 100 of them, and they've got a social structure kind of like the hunters. That huge number is a total shock, but then she drops another bomb saying dozens of them are at least as strong as Yugo. So yeah, this info is seriously bad news for the association, but he's all confident like, we'll figure it out. But wait, there's more. Apparently there's someone leading all those Magan. But that's all she knows. This is a huge deal, because they finally confirmed the enemy has a king. She knows all this from what she went through after she fell from being an angel. She got dragged to their base, and they tried to get her to join up. She was totally overwhelmed by how many there were, and while they were trying to mess with her head, she managed to bolt at the last second. So then they ask what their deal is and why they're invading the human world. Turns out demons need the same stuff as humans like food and sleep, but they've also got these primal instincts, which is basically to invade and take over. If that's all it is, then talking or making deals is completely off the table. But the Magan have brains and can actually think on top of their killer instincts. So that means whoever is playing king for them has got to have some kind of goal. It's super likely she doesn't know the specifics though. Even though it's dangerous, this news gets Tsubasa all fired up, and he swears he's gonna crush whatever they're planning. He's like, if they're messing with humanity's peace for some lame reason, this is gonna be fun. Yugo's pretty intrigued too, saying he'd rather fight some smart Magan and their king. They thank Reno for the info dump, telling her they might hit her up again later. But even with all this new intel, their main goal hasn't changed. They're still gonna fight the demons. For the time being, Mako's gonna stay in their custody under watch, mostly for security reasons. They'll make it official later, but it's just safer for him to stay inside the association. Plus, it's only logical he's gonna get a lot of hate from people given his whole situation. Then they move on to the part about him earning his keep by clearing gates. After confirming he's an F ranker, Camus remembers that the next rank evaluation is still a long way off. As the chairman walks over, the other hunters start to get nervous. Hearing all that stuff about the demons really got him pumped up. So, he's decided to give the new guy a special re-evaluation himself. Mako's totally stressing about this sudden twist, but the others just kinda laugh, saying the old man's bad habit is unfortunately kicking in again. Tsubasa, who's been giving him the stink eye this whole time, is now actually laughing at him. And while the clueless kid is wondering what's so funny, Camus just ends the meeting, and basically hauls him off, saying they're going to the training hall. Next thing he knows, Mako's in an arena staring down the head of the association himself. Since this is a special case, he's told to fight for real and show what he's got. The whole idea sounds insane, but the chairman promises to go easy and only use like 1 or 2/10 of his power. Standing there, all epic as divine spirit, Yulan pops out in this flash of brilliant light. Seeing the sword, Mako's like, is that his power? And realizes the spirit is just as strong as Yugo's. The two of them faced off like light and dark, while the other hunters just watched. Staring hard, they're all wondering just how powerful this demon-infused dude really is. For the final condition, the kid's told he has to land at least one single hit or else he's getting kicked out of the Hunter Association for good. And just like that, the fight was on, with Mako still trying to process what was happening, even begging him to stop joking around. But closing the distance in a flash. The chairman says he doesn't do jokes in a place like this. Before Mako can even react to his speed, he takes a direct hit and gets slammed into the wall. He can barely get his sword up, totally stunned by the insanely heavy blow. Remembering how Mako promised to get results, Camus asks if all that talk was just a lie to save his own skin. Barely able to stand, Mako pushes on with the fight. His hands were totally numb and he was shook. The chairman was seriously holding back this whole time. Kamu, radiating insane power, basically tells him to go all out. He had no choice but to listen, and just went for it, full of determination. For his first move, he busted out some chains to tie up his opponent, a power he'd never shown before. The kid leapt in thinking his sword was invincible, at least. In this fight, anyway. But as he swung his blade down, the massive skill gap became crystal clear. The chairman caught it with just 2 fingers, calling his attacks weak. He got tossed to the ground like it was nothing, completely knocking the wind out of him. At this rate, he wouldn't even touch the guy. Mako, dead set on proving him wrong, backed off to catch his breath. Meanwhile, Kamu just snapped the chains like they were twigs, asking if that was all he had. And while all this was going down, you hear a bottle pop. Yugo's just chugging it totally into the match, while the others were having totally mixed feelings about this whole beatdown. Mako stood frozen, racking his brain for a way to land just one hit. The chairman, getting bored of waiting, decided to bring the fight to him. His moves were crazy intense, and the old man closed the distance in a flash. He summoned that glowing sword again and swung. Mako knew blocking that thing was a big no-no. With 0 other options, he dodged back just in the nick of time. The blade barely grazed him, just slicing the front of his shirt. But honestly, the old man totally telegraphed that swing, making it so a decent fighter could dodge it. Kamu was impressed with the kid's reflexes and told him to keep it up. He kept on swinging, giving him 0 room to even think about a counterattack. The attacks were heavy, one after another, but if he just kept dodging, he was going to lose for sure. Mako knew it, so he tried to make some space and morphed his shadow weapon into a freaking gun. The chairman looked pretty surprised by the switch-up when he fired, and the audience was loving it, thinking the fight was getting way more interesting. Mako held his breath, wondering if he actually hit him, but his eyes went wide. A massive shield was suddenly protecting the chairman's whole body. Kamu gave him props for making him pull out his gear. He was still like, whoa, where did that even come from? But that just made the chairman get even more serious, summoning a long lance next. Turns out his divine spirit skill is armory, letting him switch weapons whenever he wants. Having a bunch of weapons on demand is already a huge problem, but it's super obvious these aren't just regular weapons. His spirit Ulan is the god of freaking weapons, so he can pull out legendary gear all day. Basically, the chairman is the most OP close-range fighter in the whole association. After that bombshell, they moved on to round 2. Since a gun against a spear is a bad matchup, he switched back to his sword. And yeah, you probably noticed the armory skill is a lot like his own shadow materialization thing. The chairman, totally intrigued, rushed in, dying to see how Mako would deal with his power. Mako was getting wrecked by all the spear thrusts. That thing's reach was insane. But then he spotted something. Little shimmer, and he just reacted on instinct, knocking away some axes that came flying at him so the chairman could throw his weapons too. Then Kamu followed up by smashing a giant hammer into the ground. Looking at that massive thing, he saw the hammer's shape starting to fade. Mako dodged back and jumped high to avoid a crazy sharp axe swing. But while he was midair, the weapon morphed again, this time into a bow and arrow. He didn't even have a second to catch his breath. He was just trying to survive. Meanwhile, Yugo totally got what was going on, giving the chairman props for being such an awesome teacher. The hunter sliced the arrow clean in 2, and now they were facing off again. Yugo told Reno that he'd figured something out from watching the chairman too. Armory gives you the upper hand no matter who you're fighting, which is why he wanted Mako to see it in action. Kamu charged again, probably wondering what Mako's next move was. Since Mako was using a sword style Kamu taught him, he summoned a spear, the perfect counter for a sword user. But that wasn't going to be enough to stop him. Right when they were about to collide, Mako switched up his weapon again, letting him get in close without any trouble. In that split second, he pulled out a way shorter dagger and used that tiny opening to slash at the chairman's chest. Everyone was floored by the move. He actually managed to rip the chairman's shirt, even if it was just a little. He totally nailed the timing using that split-second lag from the chairman's weapon swap. Gasping for air, Mako just waited to see what they'd say. A spear is clumsy up close, so he went for that weak spot and landed the perfect hit. Kamu praised the kid's smarts and called the test over. The young hunter was so wiped he almost collapsed from the insane trial. The whole time he was being tested, pushed to figure out how to beat impossible situations. On top of his quick moves, he's actually pretty smart on the battlefield. They told him he still needs to level up, and with that, the reevaluation was over. They gave him a B rank for now. It's a massive jump, but they made the call thinking about his potential. Mako was fired up with a new sense of purpose, vowing to get way stronger. Just then, Yugo popped up behind him saying it was a pretty solid test, but that he's still got a long road ahead skill-wise. Mako knew he was right, and that he was nowhere near their level yet, so he called out to the S-ranker. Seriously burning with the need to get stronger, he asked him to be his mentor, bowing and asking for his guidance. Yugo's totally grinning because everything's going according to plan. He was already thinking about training the new kid anyway, so he's all in and can't wait to see him level up. So they're all sitting with their divine spirits, and Yugo's like, let's do the same training me and Nova did way back. Basically, hunters borrow their spirit's power, and it's all about getting that connection. It'll make things way more efficient. And yeah, this totally applies to them too. As long as the divine stone is keeping their contract solid, they'll be golden. Plus, in theory, they can even turn divine power into mana. That's like perfect for Reno since she's got a crazy amount of mana. The only catch, he can't handle and control L just yet. But once he aces this training, he'll be able to tap into that power and get way stronger. Mako's super pumped about it and ready for his guidance. So the first big step for this whole thing, they have to hold hands while clearing a dungeon. Hearing how weird that is, the two just go dead silent. The next day, they head out to some F-rank dungeon. Holding hands, they step inside ready to get this mission done. He's kind of self-conscious about the hand-holding, but Reno's like, it's not a big deal, don't be embarrassed. The rules were to stay quiet during fights and not let go no matter what. To actually finish the training, they have to keep this up while clearing dungeons all the way from F to C rank. Just as he's wondering if this is even gonna work, the fallen angel points ahead, and boom, a whole mob of monsters. He knows he can't just chill, so he decides to check out the enemies first. But nope, next thing he knows, he's eating dirt cause Reno yanks him forward trying to end the fight ASAP. He's all like, dude, we should have planned this out first. But they can't agree, and they barely dodge as the monsters rush them. One drops down from above, and they end up yanking on each other's arms again. She almost totally wipes out from the sudden tug. And even though dodging should be easy, they're just getting in each other's way because they are completely out of sync. To deal with this mess for now, he whips out his shadow gun and just blasts the enemies. After the fight's over, Mako's like, you're way too aggressive. And Reno shoots back that he's too passive. I mean, they both kind of have a point. Their fighting styles are just polar opposites. And because they took too long with the last bunch, the next mob of monsters has them surrounded. He's about to argue again. But this is seriously not the time to bicker, so they jump right into the fight. Fast forward 2 weeks and they're at the C-rank dungeon's boss room. They've kind of gotten the hang of fighting while holding hands, but they still haven't figured out their clashing styles. Still, a boss at this level is going to be tough, so they agree to just give it their all. The real key isn't matching moves, it's about being on the same page. They're both on board with that, so they step into the room. And bam, a giant legacy golem lets out a roar that shakes the whole dungeon. Reno sizes up the enemy real quick and realizes it's the perfect target, and just dives right in, dragging her partner along for the ride. Mako switches to attack mode too. He smashes the boss with his shadow hammer, putting everything he's got into it. But the thick stone is way too tough to break. Just as he thought, he should have been more careful. Reno was not on the same wavelength and charged in again. As they're yanking each other around totally out of sync, the golem hits back with its own attack. The two of them go flying. They can't even move right, they're so out of sync. But then he sees this super determined look on his partner's face and gets that she must have a plan. Mako has no clue what she's going for, but then she gives his hand a tight squeeze and he gets the message. Whatever her plan is, she's telling him to trust her. Now that he kind of gets her, he realizes she's got a plan to get in sync and power up. He drops all his hesitation and just goes with her pull. The enemy charges at them. And they dodge just like always. But this time, they move like way more smoothly. He counters, aiming for the golem's chest and knocks it back, cracking it wide open. Inside, he spots this glowing orb, which is probably its weak spot. Thanks to Reno taking the lead, they found it together. She zooms in again, ready to finish this thing for good, but then feels herself getting yanked back just like before. She turns around totally confused and sees his face. Now it's his turn to ask her to trust him. Seeing that determined look in his eyes, she totally gets what he's thinking. They yank back just in the nick of time to dodge the boss's ranged attacks. He figures in moments like this, it's smarter to back off and rethink things. Now she finally gets that his whole method is all about playing it safe and lowering the risks. The enemy was still huge, towering over them, but now the two of them have way more faith in each other. They give each other a nod and perfectly dodge the next attack, which lets Mako hit back and send the golem stumbling. They don't give it a second to recover, just unleashing a crazy flurry of attacks. If he was on his own, he never would have been able to clear a dungeon like this. And if she didn't have him, she would have been toast a long time ago. They finally get where the other is coming from. He summons his shadow weapon. Mako brings it down hard, slicing right through the enemy and shattering the crystal ball in its chest. Just like that, the boss goes down and mission complete. He's literally jumping for joy. And throws up a hand trying to get a high five from Reno. Total ghosting, but whatever, he just shrugs it off, typical angel stuff. Later that night, Yugo's chilling at a bar when someone rolls up. He was knocking back drinks like always when the bell on the door jingles. Kinda surprised, he's like, how'd you even find this spot? And boom, it's Mako saying the chairman spilled the beans about his favorite watering hole. He turns to face the young hunter who's all like, your tips were a game changer. Seriously, his mana control is on a whole other level now, like he's a totally new dude. With his training all wrapped up, he's completely blown past what Yugo thought was possible. Mako's practically glowing from the compliment and slides into the seat next to his mentor. Big day tomorrow, Mako's got a B-rank dungeon to clear, and apparently a bunch of hunters. Got the call up. Yugo slides a drink over to his student, saying it's the perfect stage to flex his new skills and show everyone what he's made of. With that, they clink glasses, totally hyped for whatever tomorrow's gonna throw at them. Rewind a few hours to the association's meeting room where some lady reports they've spotted a massive gate, basically like a regular dungeon but on steroids, and says they're gonna need way more hunters than usual. Renji looks to the chairman for his take. He's just like, start picking your team, and then asks for the dungeon's rank. When he hears it's a B rank, a sly smile spreads across his face. He's got a plan. The woman is shocked when he personally vouches for a hunter, promising he'll do something epic. Renji's probably already guessing who, and Kamu pulls up Mako's hunter file. Fast forward to the next day on the edge of the Kanto prefecture, where a whole crowd of hunters is gathered by this insane gate. Mako's never seen this many people mobbed up for a single dungeon before. Right then, some dude starts yelling at him, pointing him out as the guy who made a pact with a demon. They get all up in his face, saying he didn't just betray them, but everyone who's ever lost family. I mean, if you really believe that stuff about his contract, you can kind of see why they're so heated, so it's probably best to just chill. But they keep calling him trash, basically saying they don't even need him on this raid. Reno's like, are you seriously gonna let them talk to you like that? But at the end of the day, they've got a job to do. Except things go from 0 to 100 real quick when the hunters decide to just take him out right then and there. One of them fires an arrow, crackling with pure lightning. Mako whips out his sword to block, but out of nowhere, this massive wall of water shoots up and stops the attack cold. He's totally confused when someone steps in to break up the fight, yelling that they're not having any hunter-on-hunter drama. They try to argue with Sarah, an A-rank hunter, screaming that he's a traitor. She just brushes them off and apologizes to Mako since she's the one running this whole raid. Trusting her, he shakes her hand to say thanks and tells everyone to just drop it. As the leader, she starts handing out assignments. She's a super famous influencer, but don't let the peppy attitude fool you. She's a total beast who climbed her way up the association ranks. Behind Mako, some other raid member is watching him kinda hanging back after figuring out who he is. A few minutes later, they're inside the dungeon and getting blasted by the insane heat. They pause for a sec, finding themselves at the edge of this super deep cliff. They peek over and see the bottom is just swarming with pissed off, hungry demons. Sarah's hyping herself up like, I got this, my call was the right one. She yells for any earth or water mages planning to throw up a bridge so they can get across fast. Then she spots Mako nearby and tells him to keep an eye on the demons and make sure they don't pull any funny business. He hustles to the edge, knowing an ambush would be a total disaster. He had no clue that his so-called allies were looking at him with some seriously dark vibes. With a snap of her fingers, Sarah gives the signal and the other hunters grab Mako instantly. Pinned in their grip, he's screaming for them to tell him what the hell is going on. She just says that everyone agreed they're gonna get rid of him and make it look like an accident. Just like they thought rolling with a human who's teamed up with a demon is way too risky. Besides, every single hunter there absolutely despises demons. And with that, they just straight up toss Mako off the cliff. They actually laugh while watching him plummet, totally sure he's not gonna survive the monster pit below. Sarah just watches with these ice-cold eyes and says she's sorry, claiming it's the only choice she had. As he's falling, it all comes rushing back the time he met Reno betrayed in the exact same way. Snapping into action, the fallen angel pops up, telling him to guide his fall toward her. And just like that, he remembers this time is different. He's not alone anymore. Shadowy chains erupt from his hands, slamming into the cliff walls and stopping his fall. But yeah, he's not exactly climbing out of this mess. The monsters down there are B-rankers, and if he lets his guard down for even a second, he's toast. Good thing is he and Reno are way stronger now, so they should be able to handle this. Back at the top, that weird hunter from before is hiding, muttering that he's gotta make a move and fast. Down below, Mako is just wrecking the demons, swapping weapons, and fighting in perfect sync with his partner. The demon count is dropping like crazy, and he's got more than enough gas in the tank since his mana and stamina are way more dialed in now. He's reacting to ambushes instantly, a satisfied smirk on his face. Enemies at this level aren't even a challenge anymore. As he kept fighting them off, that kid from before was watching from the cliff's edge, totally captivated by how fast he was moving. But then the ground beneath him gives way and suddenly he's tumbling over the edge too. He's falling and flailing, but somehow manages to break his fall a little, still slamming hard onto the ground. He's alive but hurting bad, and it might not matter for long because the demons are already closing in. They totally went for him, no hesitation, and he just started screaming and tried to bolt. But like he was cornered in seconds and had no choice but to beg them to stop. Then right at that moment, Mako came in for the save, slicing demons clean in two. They finally lock eyes and he's like, who's this new kid? Once he's saved the rookie hunter, thanks Mako for totally saving his butt. He's like, I'm Yuki. And they recognize the name of the youngest hunter ever. He messes up and says he didn't expect them to be a girl but gets shut down real quick. Because of how he looks. Even Reno can't believe it. Luckily, her partner sets her straight, saying it's not that weird. Anyway, Mako remembers Yuki called his name and is like, wait, how do you know me? Turns out this kid knew him way before he even got his contract. He used to watch Mako train like a beast no matter what. Mako gets all red hearing someone was basically his fanboy this whole time, and was even stressing when he got yeeted off that cliff. Yuki admits he actually fell while spying on him. Mako's like, this has to be fate, dude. Join us. The kid totally grabs his hand and now they're a squad. A little later, Mako chains up a whole crew of demons and just wrecks the last of them. Yuki's just standing there, totally shook, completely mesmerized by his moves. Meanwhile, our shadow hunter is feeling himself getting a major confidence boost. The kid is totally fanboying over how he fought solo and asks what it takes to get that strong. Reno spills that they use to clear dungeons holding hands. He jumps in to clarify the super awkward statement, explaining it was just for, compatibility. Then he wonders what kind of divine spirit the new guy has. Getting all shy, Yuki says its name is Kafka, an explosion spirit. That's a total curveball because he seems so quiet. He says he wanted to help out before, but was scared he'd mess up and drag everyone down. See, one time on a mission, he used his powers and almost took out his own teammates by accident. After that, even his smallest moves freaked them out. And they basically kicked him out. He's literally shaking just thinking about it, and Mako feels bad for bringing it up. Kafka just kind of hangs around him like it's trying to cheer him up. Getting trauma from your own power is a heavy thing to get over. The older hunter comforts him, saying he knows he's been trying his best this whole time. In the end, he promises him that all his hard work will pay off. Plus, he's like, just wanting to help your friends is what really matters. Yuki's never heard anyone say that before, and his respect for his hero just skyrockets. With this new fire in him, he wipes his tears and thanks Mako. Now he vows he's going to repay him and be a solid part of the team. Mako's relieved to have another person in the crew, and they all move on. 10 hours after hitting the dungeon, the hunters make it to the mountaintop, and they're in a crazy fight with the boss. They get everything ready as a team and dive behind Sarah for cover. The thing charges right at her, and with her top-tier spirit, she unleashes her power. These huge jets of water blast down from the sky, totally skewering the massive enemy and ending it for good. And just like that, the dungeon is officially cleared, and everyone's going wild for her. With the big bad down, she turns to check if anyone got hurt. But then out of nowhere, this dark magic pops up overhead. The crazy powerful mana literally shakes them to their bones before landing nearby. And from this black portal, some seriously evil vibe steps out. A Megan just waltzes into the dungeon, whining about how much mana it took to get there. The second they realize what it is, the hunters are on high alert. But even though it's a big deal, the demon looks kinda sloppy, so the others start getting cocky, feeling way too confident. They charge right in, trying to create an opening for their leader. They're so thirsty for a win, they totally ignore her screaming at them to stop, and in a flash they get sent flying, and get wiped out in the blink of an eye. Suddenly things got real. Jaga complains that they're way too weak for a team that just beat the boss. Then he points at Sarah like, "You must be the one in charge," and challenges her to throw down. She knows how bad this is, and yells for everyone to bail like right now. They don't have to be told twice and start running for their lives. Meanwhile, the Magan introduces himself and asks for her name, but she's not having it, saying she doesn't owe a demon anything. As her attack flies at him, he decides he'll just make her talk easily, shutting down her water jets. While she's still in shock, he's suddenly there, kneeing her right in the stomach. It's a brutal reminder of how fast he is, and she goes flying into a wall. Now Jaga's standing over her and gives her one more chance to say her name. But her pride is on another level, and she just throws an insult back at him. Since he's not getting a straight answer, he starts gathering dark mana into his hand and basically tells her to drop dead. This red light glows on her face, but just as he's about to blast her, some familiar dark chains yank his arm away, saving her at the last second. Mako has shown up and he's with Reno, and they look ready to throw down.